Maria, when we sort of move over to Spain, we hear a load of terminology that we don't quite know what it is. I mean, we've got the notary, the land registry, escritura, gestoria, notice simple, copia simple, escritura, original deeds. Yeah. Well, what's what and where do we begin?
That's exactly what happens to most of our clients coming over here to Spain with the idea of purchasing property. All those terms you just mentioned, it's where do I stand, where does it fit in? Starting with the notary system, which is a very important figure here in Spain. The notary, known here in Spain, has a very strong position, being the public authority and the only authority where we can legalize any kind of documentation.
So the public notary is higher than a solicitor?
Yes.
Higher than a lawyer?
Yes, initially the qualification of a lawyer, but initially another 5-6 years time of education, so wow. I can imagine it's hard to become a notary. The notary himself, herself, in the end legalizes the document. So talking about purchase of property, initially we sign a purchase contract, which is how recommendable to sign with the legal advice of a lawyer to check initially what is the binding obligations of this document. But then later on, in order to receive the ownership of this property, we need to sign public deeds before a public notary. The notary legalizes the document, gives face to the document, makes sure it's in accordance with Spanish law. But on the other hand, and here we start now with the other interesting figure, the land registry, the notary, apart from the lawyer, checks the land registry. How is it done? The day when signing the deeds, the information from the land registry has to be sent to the notary. The notary checks this information, which is called nota simple.
So it's a double check.
Exactly,
and
exactly.
Sorry, Maria, that was the nota
simple.
Nota simple.
The nota simple, which has to be sent to the notary's office. So the notary, then when actually signing and legalizing the document, again has the possibility to check whether the seller is the legal owner of this property and there's no charges or encumbrances on the land, which obviously already was checked in advance by the lawyers to make sure when signing the purchase contract there's no surprise later on.
Wow, so the land registry then is a double check for the notary and the notary a double check for the land registry?
Yes.
Yes. Well, that's quite good to know over here. So what's copia simple? If we've got a nota simple, do we need anything else?
In order to sign, we need the nota simple. Like this, we can sign the original deeds. This is the original deeds which in Spain are kept at the notary's office. Meanwhile,
whereas in the UK, if you buy a house, your deeds of the house are usually kept with your solicitor, aren't they?
Exactly.
So it's different over here. They're all kept in the notary office.
The real signed document, where indeed appear the signatures, are kept at the notary's office. Meanwhile, what is taken to the land registry to get it inscribed there is the so-called copia autorizada, which is called escritura.
Copia autorizada, which is the
authorized copy.
Ah, so that's the escritura.
This is the famous escritura, which is taken to the land registry.
So our escritura is not our deeds.
It is. In the end, it has the function of the deeds.
Right.
Because when we sell off the property, we have to present those deeds with escritura.
Ah.
But it's not the real original.
The real originals are in the notary.
Exactly.
Right.
And now I'll come to another point. Therefore, even though it's a very important document, but in the worst case, if it got lost, it is possible to recover a second authorized copy from the notary's office where we signed.
Right.
Meanwhile, as far as I understand, in England it's a bit different.
Yes, I think it is. I mean, I'm not a lawyer, I don't understand that. What about escritura and gestoria? What's the difference there, please?
Terms. The asesoría in the end would be a lawyer's office, where normally are lawyers as well as other legal employees, which in the end take care exactly, for example, of processing the deeds. Meanwhile, and obviously additional services. Meanwhile, the so-called gestoria, it's, I would say, has its roots in the history. It's the important connection between the normal Spanish and, on the other hand, the authorities. So whatever has to do with the administrative part, it goes over gestorías.
Ah, okay.
Gestoría requires as well, let's say, in order to run a gestoría requires a certain title, and there as well exists an official collegium.
Whew. Wow, there's quite a lot of information there. Thank you very much, Maria.